You're not too much, you were taught to shrink. You've been called too much your whole life. Too emotional. Too sensitive. Too intense. Too loud. Too needy. Too dramatic. And somewhere along the way, you believed it. You started apologizing for yourself. Editing yourself. Making yourself smaller so others wouldn't be uncomfortable. But what if they were wrong? What if you were never too much, you were just surrounded by people who couldn't hold you? Today, we're going to dismantle one of the most damaging lies you've ever been told. The lie that your fullness is a problem. The lie that your depth is a burden. The lie that you need to shrink to be loved. It's time to stop apologizing for taking up space. The phrase too much is interesting. Too much compared to what? According to whom? When someone calls you too much, they're not making an objective statement. They're saying, you exceed my capacity. You overwhelm my limits. You are more than I can handle. But that's not a fact about you. That's a fact about them. Somewhere in childhood, you received this message. Maybe it was said directly. Stop being so dramatic. Why do you have to be so sensitive? You're exhausting. Can't you just be normal? Or maybe it was unspoken. A parent who withdrew when you had big emotions. A family that only loved the quiet, convenient version of you. Friends who mocked your intensity. Partners who made you feel like your needs were a burden. And you learned. You learned to edit yourself. To dampen your reactions. To swallow your words. To take up less space. You thought you were adapting. You were actually disappearing. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott wrote about the true self and false self. The true self is spontaneous, alive, authentic. It emerges when a child feels safe enough to exist fully. But when the environment doesn't welcome the true self, when a child's full expression is met with rejection, criticism, or withdrawal, a false self develops. A performance. A version designed to be acceptable. The false self is the one who learned to be not too much. She monitors herself constantly, watches others' reactions, adjusts before anyone has to ask. She survives. But she doesn't live. Carl Rogers, the founder of humanistic psychology, described this as conditions of worth. You learn that you are only worthy of love under certain conditions. Be quiet and you'll be loved. Don't need too much and you'll be accepted. Hide your intensity, and you'll belong. So you do. You meet the conditions. You get the love. But it's not love for you. It's love for your absence. For the parts you removed. For the silence where your voice used to be. Here's what nobody told you. Your too much is not a flaw. It's a capacity. Your emotional depth means you feel life fully. While others skim the surface, you dive deep. Yes, it's harder. But it's also richer. Your sensitivity means you perceive what others miss. The unspoken tension. The hidden sadness. The truth beneath the words. This is a gift, not a weakness. Your intensity means you don't do anything halfway. When you love completely. When you commit fully. When you care with everything you have. These are not problems to fix. These are powers to reclaim. The ancient Greeks had a word, daimon. It referred to the inner spirit, the life force, the unique genius that each person carries. Your daimon is wild. It doesn't follow rules. It doesn't fit neatly into expectations. Societies have always tried to tame the daimon, especially in women. The witch burnings, the hysteria diagnoses, the endless messages to be smaller, quieter, more manageable. But the daimon cannot be killed. It can only be suppressed. And suppression has a cost. When you shrink yourself, your life force doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It becomes depression, anxiety, chronic exhaustion, addiction, rage that leaks out sideways, illness that speaks what your voice won't. James Hillman, the archetypal psychologist, wrote, "The soul doesn't want to be fixed. It wants to be expressed." Your too much is your soul trying to live. And every time you silence it, something in you dies. In Jungian psychology, there's a concept called the unlived life. It's everything you suppressed to fit in. Every desire you buried. Every part of yourself you exiled. The unlived life doesn't disappear. It waits in the shadow. And it creates a constant, low-level grief. A sense that something is missing. A feeling that you're not fully here. Because you're not. Parts of you are still in exile. Let's talk about relationships. You've probably noticed a pattern. You shrink yourself for someone. You become the cool girl who doesn't need much. The easy partner who never causes trouble. You hide your depth so you won't scare them away. And it works for a while. They stay. But who are they staying for? Not you. The performance. The edited version. The not too much version. And then you feel unseen. Lonely in the relationship. Wondering why intimacy feels so shallow. It's because you never let them see you. You gave them a manageable fraction and wondered why they couldn't love the whole. Here's the truth. The right people won't ask you to shrink. When you meet someone who can actually hold you, your depth, your intensity, your full expression, it won't feel like too much to them. It will feel like finally enough. They've been starving too. Starving for someone real. Someone who doesn't perform. Someone with actual depth. Your too much isn't a bug. It's a filter. It repels the wrong people. And it magnetizes the ones who are actually capable of meeting you. But you have to stop shrinking first. In Vedic philosophy, there's a concept of dharma, your unique path, your life's purpose. Dharma isn't about fitting in. It's about expressing your specific nature. A river doesn't apologize for flowing. A fire doesn't apologize for burning. They simply do what they are. You have a nature too. And it's probably not small. It's probably not quiet. It's probably not convenient. Living your dharma means letting that nature express, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Even when it exceeds their capacity. Even when they call it too much. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your full expression is. The poet David Whyte writes about the sin of self-diminishment, making yourself smaller than you actually are. He calls it a betrayal. A refusal of your own life. Every time you say, "I'm sorry for being yourself," you sin against yourself. Every time you suppress your reaction to keep the peace, you betray yourself. Every time you pretend to be less than you are, you abandon yourself. And for what? For people who can only love a fraction of you? For belonging that requires your disappearance? That's not belonging. That's erasure. What does it mean to stop shrinking? It doesn't mean becoming aggressive. Or inconsiderate. Or deliberately overwhelming people. It means giving yourself permission to exist at full volume. To feel what you feel without apologizing. To want what you want without shame. To express what's true without editing for others' comfort. It means accepting that some people will leave. Some people can only love the small version. When you grow, they'll be confused. Threatened. They might accuse you of changing. You're changing. You're finally becoming yourself. It means tolerating the discomfort of visibility. When you've been hiding for years, being seen feels dangerous. Exposed. Vulnerable. Your nervous system might scream warnings. But visibility won't kill you. Invisibility might. It means mourning what you lost. The years of shrinking. The relationships that needed your smallness. The person you might have become if you'd been allowed to bloom. This grief is real. Honor it. And then keep going. Rumi, the Sufi poet, wrote, "Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." Your myth is not about being acceptable. It's not about fitting into someone else's container. Your myth is about unfolding, expanding, becoming what you actually are. You were never too much. You were always just right for the people who can hold you. And for those who can't, you're not too much for them. You're just not theirs. Stop pouring yourself into containers that are too small. Find the oceans. If this resonated, subscribe. This channel is for the ones who are done shrinking, who are ready to take up space, who are tired of being palatable and ready to be real. In the next video, we explore why you hate in others what you hide in yourself, the psychology of projection, and how your triggers are actually mirrors.